You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. By going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com, you can make this possible.
But joining us right now in the studio, I wonder what Command would think of the folks here. You know him, of course, as Poppa Pope on Scandal. You also know him, folks, from movies and television. He is an Emmy Award winner, a bad brother, Joe Morton. Joe, how you doing?
How are you?
Man, I'm sorry I couldn't be there in D.C. with you, but always good talking with you. First of all, just what is your take on all this whole crazy presidential campaign, all the Democrats running, then, of course, the orange one in D.C.?
You know what? I think that having all of these candidates is a really good thing. I mean, we're going to get a chance to hear a lot of what the Democrats are thinking, what they have to say, what they might propose, as opposed to going on, you know, the fact that maybe Biden is the most electable because he says so, because he's the only one whose name recognition is the highest. So I think this is a good thing.
And look, I agree, because what it also does is it energizes different people to get involved in the race. Although there are about 6 or 8 people who need to drop the hell out.
But don't you think that'll happen? You know,
I mean,
because the way that happens, the debates will happen, people will drop away because the money will fall away.
No. Bill de Blasio need to go back to New York and be mayor of New York. That boy John Delaney, whatever his name is, he was the first one in. I think he polling at 0.5%. Boy, go sit at home. But it's just some folks who are just running to be running. But you're right. When the money dry up, that's when they all leave.
That's right. That's right. And I think, it's not just the money. It's, you know, people will begin to realize this one is not being listened to. That one's not being listened to. It will work itself out.
Let's talk about, of course, media diversity. You, of course, were on a show that was created, led by Shonda Rhimes, a number of other, hugely successful on ABC. Then she left to take a huge deal with Netflix. And the thing that I tell people, just like with this show, the fact that if you do not have those of us, not a seat at the table, but who actually have the table, who are creating these things, owning these things, that is the only way this stuff changes. Otherwise, we're really asking somebody white, could you, out of the goodness of your heart, please hire folks? No, we have to be in a position where we have a stake, an ownership stake, to change what is happening when it comes to media, inclusion, diversity, and what it looks like.
You know, I agree. I mean, I think when Shonda did what Oprah does, what a lot of these new sort of black producers are doing, is saying that they want to take responsibility for their own stories. They don't want to ask other people for money. They want to raise their own money. I think all this is really important. I also think that it's important for audiences to understand, because remember, you know, in those days of Oscar So White, I kept thinking it was too late. If you want to change things, don't spend the money to go to certain movies. Spend money to go to black film if that's what you want to support, if that's what you want to see out there. I mean, I think, again, like any other business, it has to be supported by its audience.
I had Tyler Perry speak at NABJ last year, and he said, and when he also, of course, was honored the BET Awards, he said he had no issues with Oscar So White. He said, but while y'all demanding a seat at the table, I'm going to go build my own table. But what he also did was, first of all, go ahead, Joe.
No, I was just laughing at what you said. I thought that was building his own table is exactly what we need. It's what Shonda does. It's what Oprah does. It's what Ava DuVernay is doing. I think all of these folks, it's what Spike did years ago by sort of creating his own, as Tyler Perry says, building his own table.
Greg Carr, your question for Joe Morton.
Brother Morton, when I first encountered you, it was, of course, in that classic watershed film, Brother from Another Planet. Could you say something to those folks out there who want to build a bridge between independent black filmmaking, that kind of visionary black filmmaking and popular culture, and the world of mass commercial entertainment media? Because you walked in both worlds.
It's a difficult thing to, especially these days, I think, to build that particular bridge, but it's not impossible. I mean, I think, again, it's happening. I think Will Packer is doing it. Certainly Shonda Rhimes is doing it in terms of television. Ava DuVernay is actually making it possible for lots of young, black, independent filmmakers to find a screen to show what they're doing. So, I mean, it takes a village. You know, we all sort of have to figure out ways to help one another build these kinds of things. It's not just one person doing it by themselves.
Thank you.
Hey, Joe, I've got a question for you. It's Scott Bolden. Yep.
Hey,
You know,
hey, Scott.
I've been a long-time fan of yours. Who are some of the folks that you know in the industry that are doing incredible things that we don't know about, that have seats at the table, decision-making authority, or who are upcoming that we ought to be watching and looking out for?
Well, I mean, I don't know that we don't know about it, but I think Ice Cube has done a tremendous amount in terms of what he's built and the kinds of films he's produced. Certainly, Will Packer has done the same thing. I think that Will Smith is trying to do something more than he's done in the past. I mean, I think there's actually a lot of people out there who are trying to figure out ways to tell stories beyond stories that have to do with equality or have to do with racism, that we want to tell other stories about who we are and how we exist in this world. And I think that's probably the biggest hurdle to get over. You know, I was looking today at a lot of different directors and producers in terms of the kind of budgets that they receive. And for most of them, the highest budget may be around $35, $40 million, except for in two cases. With Ava DuVernay doing A Wrinkle in Time, she had a $200 million budget, and Ryan Coogler had $100 million in terms of Black Panther. Those are the large movies. But I think for the smaller films, what Ava in particular is doing in terms of making things available for people, a space available for them to show their films, I think is an amazing thing.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Erica.
Hi there, Mr. Morton. This is Erica Savage Wilson. Glad to have you in D.C. And hope to attend your fireside chat tomorrow. Read in an interview that you did and talking about God friended me that people needing something to, have in the queue to watch on Sunday to help them prepare for the week, specific to the climate that we're living in being very stressful. Could you talk a little bit about the responsibility you feel as an actor to participate in that?
Since I started in this business many years ago, I sort of, I entered in the late 1960s. And in the late 1960s, a lot of the roles that were being offered to black male actors in particular were, drug addicts, gangsters, boogaboos of one sort or another. And at that point, I made a very conscious decision that the kinds of roles I wanted to take, the way I wanted to diversify my particular career was to play, not to play those kind of characters, but to play any number of different characters from any number of different walks of life that simply show black folk as human as anybody else. And with that in mind, that's how I sort of moved forward.
Joe, I got to ask you, normally for the last several years on nights like this, Thursday night, we would be live tweeting you. Do you miss Poppa Pope?
I do. I mean, I think we probably all do. I mean, on one hand, the cast of Scandal, we still stay in touch with one another. There is a group text that we in a ways that we keep in touch with each other. I think we miss being with each other. We miss doing the show. We certainly miss being around Shonda. But at the same time, I think, Shonda's decision to have the show end at its height was exactly the right decision to make.
Well, I can tell you as somebody who was the chief gladiator, certainly miss it. There was no show like it. But we're, of course, it wouldn't be mine if it would be, I would feel a lot better if Command was in charge of Washington, D.C. today with Crazy Man in the White House.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, I certainly appreciate the compliment. But the other side of things is Command is a fictionary character. Unfortunately, the man who's sitting in the White House is not fictional. Right. And so we have to in a very real way, make sure we vote him out of office.
Amen.
Well, I tell you what, I'll tell you how much I miss your character. Probably at least once every 3 months, I'll watch one of the video compilations on YouTube of some of your greatest monologues because, man, the writers of Scandal gave you some damn good stuff to work with.
They did. They did. And, you know, one of the things you have to sort of reconcile yourself with when you leave a show like that, especially with the kind of writing that I had access to, is that that's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I'm certainly and grateful that it was given to me. It will be a wonderful Christmas morning if that kind of thing should come around again.
So what are you working on now? I know
Still
the show on
God Friended
CBS.
Me. We're shooting our second season of God Friended Me, which I'm thoroughly enjoying. I think the beauty of this particular show is that we talk about the connectivity of human beings, that we are all in some way connected to one another, that because of that connectivity, we are in a position to help one another. It's the kind of show that your whole family can watch without any kind of, you never have to hide your children's eyes for anything. It's the kind of show that makes you feel good at the end of it, even though we may bring tears to your eyes. It's the kind of show that I think talks about Americans in a very diverse way, which if you watch the show, you would see it. We have all kinds of things that happen on the show. I'm really enjoying it, and I hope everybody watches.
Last question for you. You were off Broadway, an unbelievable one-man play, Dick Gregory. Is that still possibly going to make its way to Broadway? John Legend was one of the executive producers, and man, it was just an unbelievable play. I think it will be amazing. What's the status of that?
Well, we keep trying. You know, a one-man show on Broadway is a very difficult thing to achieve, but we're still pushing for it, and hopefully one of these days, sooner than later, it will happen again.
Well, maybe. Well, I would hope. You know, just like the Broadway play that Carrie was on, Netflix is going to show. I'm telling you, if that was shot, for the folks who saw it, and let me tell you what happened there, Greg. Joe invited me to opening night. I had speeches, all kind of stuff, couldn't get there, and then they were closing, and he said, "Look, Roland, we close it in 2 weeks. You better get to New York to see this." And so, man, went to New York, and it was a tour de force. Dick Gregory I was just so pleased that he was able to be alive to see that. Those of you who saw us live stream Dick Gregory's funeral, you got a taste of Joe Morton playing Dick Gregory, and just an unbelievable role there. And so maybe we can't get it on Broadway. Maybe we can get somebody to at least shoot it and have it, because again, I just think people would just really love to see you bring Dick Gregory to life, and we certainly miss him.
Well, as they say, from your lips to God's ears.
Joe Morton, always a good pleasure talking with you, brother. You take care. I'll see you soon.
You too. Have a good one.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment. All right, folks, you heard me talk a lot about marijuanastock.org. Why? Because I want to keep you informed of investment opportunities that make sense. We've all watched the growth of the cannabis industry. A recent report by New Frontier Data estimates the global cannabis market at more than $340 billion. Of course, marijuana legalization is sweeping the country state by state. We know that marijuana has a good cousin, the hemp plant, with a much higher concentration of CBD. That means hemp gives you all the medical benefits of marijuana without getting you high. Until recently, hemp farming was practically illegal in the U.S. and heavily regulated by the DEA. However, the 2018 Farm Bill recently passed in Congress, making it legal to grow hemp CBD in the U.S. and creating one of the largest commodities worldwide. They need land to grow all of the plants. Folks, this is simple. It's an incredible investment opportunity. And that's where our good friends at 420 Real Estate come in. Their business model is simple. They buy land that supports hemp CBD grow operations and lease it to licensed, high-paying tenants. They are hemp CBD landlords, and you can get in on the action. Now, what they've done for the folks at Roland Martin Unfiltered is allow for you to make a minimum investment of $200. The initial investment was $500. So you can invest this in the crowdfunding campaign. That's right, $200 up to $10,000. Now, again, all you got to do is go to marijuanastock.org. That's marijuanastock.org to get in the game, and get in the game now. Now back to your Roland Martin Unfiltered video.